of course, Israel is always pushing the United States to war with Iran. Uh, it's a very hot scene right now, and the U.S. Abided by Israel's requests just a few months ago. But the fact is that since 1996, Benjamin Netanyahu has led repeated governments in Israel explicitly calling for regime change in Iran. And he hasn't ended that call. He called for regime change in Iran again at the United Nations General Assembly debate just a couple of weeks past. So the United States, because it is so diligent in following Israel's dictates, could well be drawn into yet another war. With Netanyahu, there's never enough wars. Of course, I don't know their war planning. I don't follow and am not able to follow the daily military tactics and, as you say, placement of weapon systems and troops and intelligence gathering and other operations. But as a general principle, the 12-day war, so-called, did not solve the problems that Netanyahu claimed that it would. And so no doubt he would like to revisit that and engage once again in active kinetic regime change operations, whatever that might mean. Maybe more assassinations, maybe another outright war. Apparently, from all that we know, the attacks on Iran not only did not end Iran's potential of nuclear weapons, though they vociferously say they don't want nuclear weapons, but the enriched uranium is now in locations that are unknown, and at sufficiently high enrichment that moving to nuclear weapons would not be an arduous task for the Iranians. So there are great uncertainties. Iran is under tremendous pressure, obviously. Also, incredibly, Iran gets attacked. The U.S. cheats on diplomacy, and it's the Europeans who say we need to reimpose sanctions on Iran. It's a kind of mind-boggling thing that it's just bullying rather than diplomacy, which is the main mode of operation. But that is a kind of green light as well for Netanyahu. He saw that he could make a unilateral attack on Iran in the context of U.S.-Iranian negotiations. Even then, during ongoing negotiations, Israel could unilaterally attack Iran, and not only would it not be blamed for doing so, the U.S. would join in, and Europe would apply its diplomatic pressure not on Israel, but on Iran. It's a crazy world, but that's how it is.
You just heard Dr. Jeffrey Sachs, economist, Columbia professor, and one of the few voices inside the American elite willing to speak truth, deliver a shocking but undeniable reality. Israel is always pushing the United States to war with Iran. And it's not new. It's not accidental. It's by design. Because since 1996, Benjamin Netanyahu has led government after government in Israel with one consistent goal: regime change in Iran. And just weeks ago, he stood at the United Nations General Assembly and said it again. Not quietly, not behind closed doors, but on the world stage. And what did the U.S. do? It followed. Again. Because as Sachs makes clear, the United States isn't leading foreign policy. It's taking orders from Tel Aviv. Let's unpack what he said, and why this moment may mark the beginning of yet another illegal, catastrophic war in the Middle East. Sachs starts with a fact most Western media ignores. Netanyahu hasn't changed his position on Iran, because he never intended to. Since 1996, he has openly called for the overthrow of the Iranian government. Not containment, not deterrence, not diplomacy, but regime change. And every time the world tries to negotiate peace, Israel finds a way to sabotage it. The recent so-called 12-day war wasn't about stopping nukes. It was about killing Iranian leadership, destroying infrastructure, and derailing any chance of diplomacy. And it failed. Because as Sachs says, it did not solve the problems that Netanyahu claimed it would. Iran wasn't weakened. It was hardened. And now more determined than ever. Israel launched attacks on Iran while US-Iran negotiations were still ongoing. That's not just provocative. That's an act of betrayal against the very idea of diplomacy. But here's the real scandal. When Israel attacked, the US didn't condemn it. The Europeans didn't sanction it. Instead, they blamed Iran and reimposed sanctions, as if Tehran had done something wrong. Sachs calls it what it is: a green light for Netanyahu, because now he knows he can strike Iran whenever he wants, and the US will cover for him. Even if Washington claims to want peace, even if Europe pretends to value diplomacy, they'll always side with Israel. Every time. No matter what. The attacks on Iran didn't stop its nuclear program. They accelerated it. Sachs points out, enriched uranium is now hidden in unknown locations. It's enriched to levels where building a weapon wouldn't be an arduous task. So instead of delaying Iran's capabilities, the strikes pushed Iran further toward the bomb, not out of desire, but out of survival instinct. Because when a nation believes it's under existential threat, especially from assassination plots and regime change operations, it rethinks its options. Fast. And for Iran, the lesson is clear. Without a deterrent, you're vulnerable. So if the US and Israel keep pushing, they won't prevent a nuclear Iran. They'll create one. It's a crazy world, but that's how it is. Because the rules have been reversed. Diplomacy? Punished. Or rewarded. Sanctions? Imposed on victims, not aggressors. And the US? Not a mediator. A co-belligerent. Because by joining Israel's campaign, through silence, support, or direct military action, the US has made itself a party to the conflict. And that means, any retaliation from Iran won't just target Israel. It will target American bases, diplomats, and interests across the region. And once that happens, there's no turning back. While Iran is punished for being attacked, Israel faces zero consequences for launching unprovoked strikes. That's not international law. That's bullying disguised as policy. And it's not just the US. It's Europe too, which Sachs says we need to reimpose sanctions on Iran. For what? For existing? For defending itself? For refusing to surrender? Meanwhile, no word about holding Israel accountable. No investigation. No pressure. Just blind obedience. And that's exactly what Netanyahu wants. Because as long as the West protects him, he can keep provoking war without risk. In conclusion, Dr. Jeffrey Sachs gives us a rare and unfiltered look at the real forces shaping the Iran crisis. Not nuclear fears. Not terrorism. But Israeli aggression, US complicity, and the complete collapse of diplomacy. Netanyahu doesn't want peace. He wants regime change. And he's using the US as his army. Until that changes, until Washington stops following Tel Aviv's lead, the Middle East will remain a powder keg. And one day the spark will come. Stay tuned for more analysis right here on The Informed Perspective. Until next time, stay informed and think critically.
And if the Russians give the Ukrainians an opportunity, the Ukrainians will knock their teeth in. It's a deadly war. The Ukrainians have shown themselves to be very adept, battle-worthy opponents. But heroism alone doesn't win the day. You need numbers, you need logistics, you need, command and control, you need all the things that the Ukrainians don't have. So the Russians, are winning. And then in the air, it's not even a contest. Ukraine lacks the ability to provide concerted air defense over strategic targets, important targets. And Russia is able to just pick them off at will. And you combine these two factors, and it's just it spells doom for Ukraine. What's going to happen? Nothing. I mean, I what is Europe going to do? The Europeans just acknowledge they can't put troops into Ukraine. They don't have any troops to put into Ukraine. And if they did have troops to put into Ukraine, they can't support them logistically. Um, it's just a pipe dream. Europe can't do anything without America backing them up, and America's not going to back them up. Not on this. So I think what you're going to see a lot of gnashing of the teeth, a lot of pulling of the hair, a lot of bold statements made by, politicians who, better take a look in their rearview mirror because their political base is crumbling in each one of their respective countries. I don't see Macron, Starmer, or Merz lasting much longer. Um, you know, the German economy is in free fall. Great Britain's on the verge of open revolt, and France isn't much better. And these are the people that are supposed to rally and somehow build a viable European army. We know they don't have a European army. That's why um, I think von der Leyen said in a recent speech that the Ukrainian army is the first genuine European army. Really? Because we trained them, we equipped them, and now we have to know how to use them properly. Gosh, I mean, how would you feel to be a Ukrainian knowing that you're dying for some European dream and it's not about Ukrainian sovereignty, it's not about Ukrainian independence or, Ukrainian democracy or anything about Ukraine at all. You're simply a tool built by the Europeans that the Europeans will use and abuse to suit the interests of Europe, not Ukraine. This is the reality. Europe can do nothing. There is nothing Europe can do anything with. Russia's victory is inevitable, and it's going to occur on terms that will be acceptable to Russia.